Welcome into a brand new edition of the 06010 ESPN Communications podcast. I'm the host, Alex Feuz, and we are joined by ESPN NBA game analyst Doris Burke. She'll be on the call for her 17th NBA Finals. Doris, Pacers Thunder this Thursday, 8:30 on ABC. When you hear that, what comes to your mind first?
Oh, just how exciting it is to have two teams that are so young, but so talented. And I can't help but immediately be attracted to the matchup at the point guard position, right? You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the reigning MVP, sort of been positioning himself for that award the last couple of years. And then Tyrese Halliburton, who interestingly, in an anonymous NBA poll, was voted the most overrated. And what does he go out and do? They go 7-1 in clutch games in the playoffs. He hits three either game tying or go ahead field goals in the final minute of the fourth quarter or overtime. And then he puts on Instagram, overrate that to his colleagues. So there's so many things that intrigue me, but certainly the youth on both teams and the point guard position for both teams pops.
What do you think fans can expect from this series?
Yeah, this is a fascinating dynamic because you have two teams that want to play at a fast pace and yet somehow manage to protect the basketball. So obviously, I think the defining characteristic for Oklahoma City en route to the finals has been their pressure defense, the relentless, consistent ball pressure, the swarming anytime the basketball touches the paint, just the relentlessness and the depth that they have to just keep coming after you and after you. Alex Caruso said it best. So Alex and Cason Wallace will both come off the bench. He said, essentially, you have two more starters. So we come with fresh legs. The other team is either going to, keep their starters in to deal with us. We consider ourselves starters. So that's the first and most important thing. And know that Tyrese Halliburton leads the playoffs and the regular season in assist to turnover ratio. So he has been dynamic with the basketball while still taking great care of it. So, what gives there? There's the tension and the pressure point that I'm immediately looking at, and can't wait to see. I cannot wait to see what happens as it relates to, can Oklahoma City turn this basketball team over?
When you're preparing to call a game like the NBA Finals, what
Yeah.
does the preparation look like?
My preparation is very consistent. You know, Throughout the course of the regular season, if it's a night I'm not working, Alex, I am watching at least 1.5 games a night. I will confess to you that I tend to fall asleep on the back half, maybe midway through the third quarter of those West Coast games, and I'll have to finish that viewing in the morning. You're consistently reading the daily clips that come into your email. When you are on site, you are trying to get opportunities to speak to the players specifically for their perspective. We have the good fortune of every game talking to the coaches, getting several questions amongst our announce team about X's and O's information or strategy points, sometimes philosophy questions. So I wouldn't say it necessarily changes for the NBA Finals. It's worked for me for 30 years, so that's sort of the way I go about it. The film work is critical, the reading is critical, but there's just a little bit more nerves now, right?
When you say that you watch all those basketball games,
Yeah,
spent most of your life around this sport,
yeah.
what first drew you to basketball?
Yeah. I mean, this is an easy answer. When I was 7 years old, Alex, my family moved from New York to the Jersey Shore, a little small town called Manasquan. And literally the house my parents bought, there was a court right next door. And, I think my mother used to say, if I wanted to know where Doris was, I simply opened the kitchen curtain and peeked out at the basketball floor or court. And the previous owners had left a basketball in the yard. And the day we moved, I'm 7 and I'm the last of 8 children. And my mother is looking at a moving truck full of belongings and a 7-year-old who's going to do nothing but get under their feet. And she puts the ball in my hand and said, why don't you go over there and play? And I picked it up at that moment, Alex, and I have never put it down since.
What do you think 7-year-old Doris Burke would say right now?
Just that not in a million years would you could get me emotional with that question, Alex. Not in a million years would I have ever considered um, that I'd be calling an NBA finals. I do remember telling my mother once that I would be the first woman in the NBA. That obviously did not happen. The W was formed about 10 years after I graduated. I'm not sure I would have been good enough to play in that league anyway. But it's interesting that the WNBA's formation is a pivotal moment for me. I had been in broadcasting since 1990, but what the W did for me, Alex, was I could work about 35 games in the winter doing college basketball and 35 in the summer, and thus make a real living as a color analyst, the way a Dick Vitale or a Bill Raftery were doing at that moment. So I
What
can't
is
believe it, Ben. Like, or Ben Cafardo, Alex, Ben Cafardo told me recently, this is my 17th NBA finals in any one of three roles. And I was like, no, I literally could not believe when he said this is year 17. My first thought was, oh, dear God, where have all the years gone?
That's amazing. And you'll be working alongside Mike Breen and Richard Jefferson. What is it like working with both of them?
Yeah, I'll start with Mike Breen, who's a legend, right? Like he's a living legend. He is the master of his craft. I always say this about he and Tim Corrigan. We can, sit down at the table and know that that broadcast is going to go where it needs to go. The storylines will be followed. We'll adjust to anything in real time. Mike Breen's just ridiculous grasp of NBA rules, history, all of it. I always say this, there are certain play-by-play guys I sit next to that I know unequivocally I am better simply because I sit next to them. And Mike would be that. And it's interesting, when I worked with JJ Redick last year, I thought he was this incredible teammate. I was always so appreciative how a man who played as long as JJ did in as many roles as he did would just put his arms around me and we would, become close and I think do a good job calling, the event. And when Richard was named, JJ reached out and said, I know you enjoyed working with me. You are going to love Richard more than me. And we laugh. On the occasions where I saw him this year, we would laugh because, the thing that stands out to me about Richard Jefferson is I think the first thing people think about Richard, Alex, is that he's this fun-loving guy who's, always going to try to lighten the room by cracking the jokes and things of that nature. I think what happens is people can underestimate him. He delivers the basketball goods at the highest levels. Let's remember he played in 4 NBA finals. He has an NBA championship to his credit with LeBron James. And so, and in addition to that, he does provide at times a lightness that I think Mike Breen and I benefit from. He's got a very quick wit, a great sense of humor. And yes, delivering the basketball goods and covering all the storylines is important. But we can lose sight of the fact that this is an entertainment medium, Alex, and having some fun on the broadcast resonates with the viewer. They feel, my son once said to me, sometimes, Mom, I think you forget when you're having fun on the air, we're coming with you. And so I just, there's so many things about Richard I would tell you I love. Maybe the best one is I think he's an incredible teammate.
You mentioned the entertainment aspect of the broadcast. How do you balance that storytelling with the real-time analysis on the broadcast?
Yeah, I mean, listen, your job is to sit down as well prepared as you can possibly be, and then you have to react in real time. And, that's the fascinating challenge about this. I know, and I'll take it a little bit different away as opposed to the fun you just mentioned, Alex. So, one of the storylines in the Western Conference Finals, in game one in particular, Minnesota had some frustration about the number of free throws that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander took. And NBA Twitter goes crazy for certain guys who they call free throw merchants, et cetera, et cetera. The situation this year reminds me a little of Dwayne Wade in 2006 finals against Dallas, where people were incensed at the number of free throws. So we talked about the storyline free throw merchant, and we did that because in Minnesota, 19,000 fans were chanting free throw merchant. We know the viewer at home can hear that. And if they can't hear it, they are wondering what's being chanted. And so we felt going in as a broadcast team, this is a storyline. If it plays out where there's a number of free throws happening, it's something we need to discuss. Well, the Oklahoma City fans took exception to that. They didn't like it. And usually I feel like I'm doing a decent job when multiple fan bases are pissed off at me, for lack of a better term. Forgive that expression. But at various times, Boston fans think I hate them, Knicks fans think I hate them, Sixers fans think, and now Oklahoma City's like, why doesn't Doris like SGA? I love SGA. Absolutely love them.
You've paved the way as a trailblazer in so many ways. Was there a moment early on when you realized you were breaking new ground?
I tried very hard to never consciously acknowledge those moments. And the reason I did that, Alex, is because I think if I did, I may have felt the pressure that would have made me uncomfortable. And so the only thing I have ever done throughout the course of my career, and it is true for game one of the NBA Finals, the question I ask myself is, what is my next game? And how do I best prepare for that telecast? And what we try to do is do justice by the athletes we cover. So talking about their skill, if their personal history is something they've shared, or we can help the viewer understand what this person is about, it is our job to try to put the viewer in the place we are so fortunate to be, which is courtside, right at midcourt. And that's our job. Our job is to cover these athletes. And somebody once told me, there's a winner, there's a loser, and there are generally a couple of reasons why. And you better make sure you're telling all of those things.
And Doris, the last question before we get to the Fast Five round. You've always had a unique voice and presence on air. What advice do you give to the people that I'm sure ask you when they're trying to find their voice as a broadcaster?
Yeah, this is a great question, Alex. I always just say, be yourself. There are certain groups of people you can't fool. I always say you can never fool children. Children innately know, right? You just can't fool them. You can't fool NBA players. They know if you, as a coach, have the ability to get them where they want to go. You can't fool them. They see it a mile away. And I would also say you cannot fool a sports viewer. They are tuned in. They're usually watching. They're usually passionate fans of either the team or the sport itself. And so if you're trying to be somebody else, which is natural, right? As a kid, I remember watching Al McGuire, and he had all these catchphrases and things of that nature. And then Billy Raftery was my next favorite. Two guys who had flavor in the way they did things and just very cool sayings. But that's not me. I don't have that kind of hipness or coolness. I just love the game of basketball. I think my strength is this is a game that has shaped me literally since I was 7 years old. I told you earlier, I picked it up. It's provided me an education. It's given me confidence in my life. And now it affords me a chance that this is my profession. How lucky am I? So I would say, be yourself, because it's the best way to be. And it's really the only authentic thing you can be.
Love it. Doris, this is my favorite part of any interview I do. It's a Feuz Fast Five. It's 5 quick questions. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. First one, what is your go-to Rhode Island restaurant?
The Matunic Oyster Bar, which unfortunately will be closed due to a fire. And I can tell you the entire state and some parts of Connecticut are full in mourning over the loss of Matunic Oyster Bar. It is one of the best in all of New England.
You are a golfer. What is your current handicap?
I believe it's 18. It should be higher. I've been abysmal the last couple of years.
If you could call one non-basketball event, any sport, any moment in history, what
Stop. Masters, any Masters golf tournament.
That's amazing. In your experience, in your role, you deal with many PR people.
Mm-hmm.
What makes the most effective public relations person?
I would say people who are proactive. Raymond Ritter of the Golden State Warriors just has a great grasp, sends articles and clips, but only the most important ones. Always calls the day of the game. Is there any last minute question you have? The ability to interact successfully with people and to be proactive, to anticipate the needs of people coming in to cover your team.
And Doris, the last one for you. Finish this sentence. I feel most proud of my career when.
I think I'm very proud of the longevity of my career. I was a good basketball player, a very good Big East, all Big East, um, maybe a top 50 player, but the fact that I've been able to do this for as long as I have makes me the most proud.
Well, Doris, thanks so much for your time during this busy stretch for you. And once again, this Thursday, the NBA Finals between the Pacers and Thunder starts at 8:30 on ABC. Doris, thanks so much for your time.
Alex, that was so fun. Thank you.